Hi, I'm John Leroux, Manager of Collections and Exhibitions at the Beaverbrook Art Gallery, and it's my pleasure to be here with Jennifer Pazienza, who we co-curated the show Gordon Dunphy Vessels, which we're really happy to have at the Axe Gallery in Sussex. So we're joined with Gordon here in between us.
Hello, Gordon.
And we just wanted to have just a little talk to tell you about some of our memories of Gordon and why he as an artist and as an individual and his work is so meaningful.
Absolutely. And John, before we do that, let's acknowledge the land that we're on, because Gordon absolutely would want us to do that. So we are geographically on Keswick Ridge, New Brunswick, but of course we are on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq Maliseet people, and we acknowledge that, and I acknowledge, of course, the privilege of living here, as does Johnny, and as we said, Gordon would have loved that, so thank you.
So, Gordon, we have the work Vessels, which started at the Beaverbrook Art Gallery last year, and we were privileged to be able to share it with the Axe Gallery in Sussex. And it's a collection of his works, all of New Brunswick wood, which he harvested himself and he lovingly worked on over many decades. And Gordon was acknowledged as really one of the finest woodturners in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question about that.
Yeah, so tell us about how you came to Gordon. It's a wonderful story.
Okay, well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a retired art education professor at the University of New Brunswick, and I tell you that because I came here in 1989, and in about, I guess it was the following 1990, the late George Fry, and another great New Brunswick artist and educator, said, Jen, would you be willing to go to the Mactaquac Craft Festival, Fine Craft Festival, and take a look around and write a little bit about it, new kid on the block, 30-something, long time ago.
Yeah, fresh eyes.
Exactly, yeah. Would you do that? I'm like, Mactaquac, okay, where is that, right? So no GPS, no.
Yeah, right over here.
Right, just like, okay. So, I made my way to Mactaquac, and with my pad and pencil, didn't have my phone, and arrived, and I was just, I came to New Brunswick, of course because of UMB, but also because I was immediately struck by the richness of the fine art and craft community here. And it's only gotten deeper and broader in the 31 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I arrived there, and I was like, where do I begin? How do you start writing? So my way of doing things is to just immerse myself in the setting. It was toward the end of my looking that I literally glanced over my shoulder and I saw this vessel. It looked like it was floating, and it just stopped me dead in my tracks. And I looked for the artist, couldn't find them, so I went over to it. A beautiful small, there's one in the show like it, I don't think it's the one, but it's one like it, a small foot, high shoulder, only about this big, cherry turned bowl, and I stood there and I thought, oh my goodness, this is what Bachelard talks about in his Poetics of Space. This is just pure poetry. We think, just as an aside, we think sometimes that vessels are about the surface, but they're vessels, they carry, right? They
it's
really
about the
carry.
space,
You can't paint you, but vessels really carry. And I thought, oh my God, and I was transfixed in that moment. And
by someone you had no idea who it was,
no idea
never
who
seen.
it was. No,
That's right.
no. And the interesting thing, in some ways, it was kind of an unassuming work of Gordon's. It wasn't like the Burrell piece that we're sitting with, which I'm fortunate to live with. But it was just amazing. And I thought, I need to know more about this person. So that was my first encounter, my first experience with Gordon's work, and it stayed with me, obviously, all these years.
Yeah, with his, they're material poetry. There's so much. They're about the form, they're about the texture, they're about the quality of wood. But one of the things that he engages with a lot is a lot of these are made out of what's called burls. If you look at the live tree, sometimes you'll see a tree trunk and there's a huge bump out of it, and it's essentially a tree cancer.
Exactly right.
It's a deformity.
Yeah.
And we think of us with scars, deformities. We want to hide them, fix them, eliminate them. He would find the beauty in them. He would work with them. So it's the poetry of finding something that is inherently ugliness or something that's a natural malfunction, and find something. I find it poetic because ultimately cancer claimed his life, but he worked with tree cancer. But he would see the resonance of that as well,
Absolutely.
something that was there.
And my further involvement with Gordon, I had written twice for him for his shows, and one of the if you asked me what is the single thing that you associate with Gordon's work, I mean, obviously we talked about poetry, we talked about poetry, space, and form, but grace is the other word. And I wrote about it in the exhibition that he had at the University of New Brunswick, at the Art Center there. And grace is the idea of gifting. That's what grace is. When we say, oh, I've been graced with, or, you know, and each of these, to me, are like gifts. They're these moments of grace. That moment when I stopped in my tracks, that poetic moment, grace is something that you don't ask for. It's given to you in a kind of unbidden way. I don't know how to say it. And I just find Gordon's work literally graceful and full of that gift giving, these generous forms, this generous ability of his just given. I don't know how else to describe it.
No, you're right. There's a devotion here, almost this sort of religious sort of zen of perfection, of finding sort of the beauty in the earth, of what, you know, whether you believe in God or some sort of ethereal power of something, that this is, he reveals the things that we often don't see. And with this, and you look at that, they're also, you know, they're obviously three-dimensional works in how they change as you turn them around, and that idea of form, that this is what this piece of wood is always sort of meant to be. He would find these burls in the wood, and he would sort of age them for years, and sometimes come back to them after a decade of work and find these pieces. Unlike
a painting that, well, maybe some painting you might want to rotate on your wall for some reason. We turn this. We turn it throughout the year. So we're seeing
comes new.
Different bits of it. And we also move it in the house. We put it on a higher location, right? And on a windowsill, we move them so that we can enjoy them. Because when I'm sitting here looking across at you, Johnny, I'm also seeing this, right? I'm also seeing that edge, particularly with the burl pieces. They create incredible landscapes, and we just by turning them, it's like a new piece over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. And it's one of the beauties of enjoying sculpture, rather than we typically see them photographed in a book. That's how you see it. No, they live. They're like us, the three-dimensional, and they live in space.
That's absolutely
so it's in space. It contains space. Space flows through it. No, and I think that even the titles, the title of the exhibition is Vessels. So it's a vessel in itself, but it represents sort of a vessel of his devotion, him as his craft, him as a person. I mean, Gordon's in this, and he would see this, right?
Absolutely. And so with that, I'm going to share this. This didn't make it into the show. I'm just joking. It wouldn't. This is a mortar and pestle. Gordon, one of the things that, Johnny, I know you did too, Gordon loved to eat. He loved good wines. He loved beautifully prepared food. He was very interested in Italian food. That's an area of
interest.
And one day I just said, I wish I had a mortar and pestle, other than I have a lava rock one. And Gordon surprised me and made me this cherry, which also has significance because that first piece was cherry. This cherry mortar and pestle. And I use it for something in my culture that's called amoglio, which is the crushed garlic, oil, fresh herbs to be used on barbecue and so forth.
That's great.
And you can still smell the wood too.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. So it smells great. So you use this all the time, and he knew it would be used. So his gifting. So he started as well making, I guess, more practical sort of small bowls in the early '80s, and then developed into an artist. It's our honor. We'd like to thank the Axe Gallery for wanting to take this exhibition, for us to share this work with the Sussex region and with you. And we think what the Axe does is wonderful as a community focus of art and culture. So thanks so much. Thank you, Jen. And thank you, Gordon, for giving us this work.
Thank you all, and enjoy. And what's wonderful about the show, walk around them.
Walk around them, exactly. Thanks very much.
Thank you.